Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and this is another exercise where we are going to practice our function skills in C programming language. And in this exercise, what we are going to do is we are going to write a function that receives two numbers. It receives two numbers, and then all it does is simply to print out which one of them is the maximum, print out which one of them is the maximum, so maximum, and which one of them is the minimum. So for example, if we will have let's say num1 equals to 5 and num2 equals to 7, so in this case the function is going to print maximum equals to 7, right, and minimum equals to 5. That's it. So if we come to think about this function, about what will be its type, we can see that this function does not return anything. Although this function prints something to the screen, prints the maximum, prints the minimum, it doesn't matter, because we do not see anything related to the return statement. The function will be then of type void, right? And then we are going also to specify the function name. So for this example, let's say print min max. Please remember that it's very important to give your function name something useful, something meaningful that will describe the content, the meaning of the function, what the function does. And right afterwards, we are going to specify the parameters that the function will receive. So we can see here that the function receives two numbers. So two numbers, let's say of an integer type. So we can use something like this, int num1 and int num2. And at this point, we know that the function received everything that it needed. And now we are going to write the function's body in these curly brackets. So the function actually is pretty simple. First of all, you just use a condition, so you just go something like this. If num1 is greater than num2, then in this case you are going to do the following. You are going to print to the screen that the maximum between these two numbers is %d \n, and in this case it will be simply num1, right, because it's greater than num2, meaning it's the maximum, obviously. So this will be num1. And similarly, we are going to do it for the minimum between these two. We know that if that's the maximum, then of course this one will be less than num1. So we are going to write down minimum is %d and just change it from num1 to num2. All right, very good. Now what we have to do is simply to specify the else statement, meaning if num1 is not greater than num2, then what we are going to do is we are going to execute this block of code. So in this case, the printf commands are going to be very similar. We're just going to copy them. So we are going to do something like this. Printf maximum is and instead of this %d, which is used for num1, we are going to use num2, and here we are going to use num1 for the minimum, right? Because this else section is only executed if num2 is at least greater or equals to num1. So in this case, we will assume that num1 is the maximum, right? It's at least equals to num1 or greater than num1, and the minimum is num1. So simple as that. And one thing I want you to notice is that this function print min max, this function does not return anything. You can see that there is no line like this, return, I don't know, minimum or return maximum or something like that. We do not return anything, and the reason is because this function is of type void, and it shouldn't return anything, it just should print something to the screen. So you know the difference between printing and returning something to the calling function, right? And there you go. Basically, we can say that, let's remove these two lines. We can say that the print min max function is over. We are done with it. Now what interests us is to write the main function and to see how we call this print min max. So that's actually very simple. Let's just use int a and b. We create two variables, a and b, which are local to this main function, right? We cannot access them, at least at this point, we cannot access them through these functions. So these a and b are local to the main function, and now we are going to write a print, please enter number 1 and number 2. So printf enter number 1. All right, this will go for the a. So now we are going to use scanf %d, store it inside the first variable. And similarly, we are going to do the same for the second variable. So just use printf enter number 2. And now you are going to use the scanf to read it and %b, and that's it. Now what you are going to do is simply call this function, right? We have our two numbers, two variables, and we want to find out which one of them is the maximum and which one of them is the minimum. So in this case, we will simply call the function. We know that we can call this function just by specifying its name, so print min max. All right, so there you go, print min max, and in the parentheses we are going to specify what this function will receive as a parameter. So that's the first parameter, int num1. Int num1, we are going to send the value of a, and for num2, here you can see it, we are going to send the value of b, and at the end, of course, specify the semicolon. And now let's try to build and run it and see what happens. So here we go, enter num1. So as we've used in our example, 5 and 7. So there you go, there you can see it, maximum is 7 and minimum is 5. And we can try another example. Let's run it. Let's do something like this, 100 and 5,000. So 5,000 is obviously the maximum in this case, and 100 is the minimum. So I hope this example is clear. Basically what we've done here is we've written a function of a type of a void type, receiving two parameters and running some commands, some conditions, and some printing to the screen commands with messages of maximum and minimum. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we are going to proceed with the third one. I'll see you there.